Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The sprightly Katie Couric is out hawking a memoir. And one of the disclosures in this memoir, in order to sell this thing, is that Couric edited an interview she did with former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And the portion of the interview she edited, according to her, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg's opposition to those who were kneeling for the anthem, those who were protesting the anthem. Ginsburg found that, I'm not using her words verbatim, but she found it unseemly, and it's not something that she supported as a means of protest. That was edited out, because in Katie Couric's infinite wisdom, she thought it may present RBG in a light that was unfavorable to her constituency. Well, I should say their constituency.
Right. It would make her look bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unbelievable. She was
Katie
against
Couric,
BLM kneelers, and she admits to covering this up.
Katie Couric is editing RBG to protect RBG from herself, and this is even better. You know, consultation with other luminaries in the D.C. press corps, like Obama's favorite Republican, David Brooks, which is to say, liberal. Brooks suggested that RBG probably didn't understand the question. And that's why she gave the response that she gave.
I mean, it's a temptation of journalists to protect those you favor, but that's taking it a little bit too far.
Oh, well, any sort of sacred cow treatment is taking it a bit too far.
Oh, yeah.
Then you're not a journalist anymore. You're a PR representative, which is what the D.C. press corps is. But I love that as some sort of excuse. This is the sentimentality that leads to the end. So let me just understand something, Ms. Couric or Mr. Brooks. You didn't think that RBG had the mental acuity to field a question from Katie Couric on the topic and give an answer that was on point to the topic. But it didn't occur to you that you raise any questions about her competency to continue on as a sitting Supreme Court justice? It is a great example of the death of anything resembling journalism and why people are right to be as skeptical as they are. In fact, they should be more skeptical than they are. For more on this and other matters, including his new novel, pleased to be joined by John Moody, former executive vice president, that is, at Fox News. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Your reaction to that admission by Katie Couric?
Well, there are novels and there are books and there are stories that tell us a lot about the author. And I think we've just heard from Katie Couric what she really believes and what she has believed her entire time as a journalist. And you're right, it is the death of journalism when a writer, when an anchor, when anybody in her position starts to monitor and color the news to fit her philosophy. And it's just a shame. It's amazing that she admitted it.
Well, and it is amazing, but, I guess, she's got to meet her numbers in order to get her payout from the publisher. But with respect to Katie Couric as an example, I mean, as somebody who was in the news business as long as you were, an executive no less, how ubiquitous do you think examples like Katie Couric's are?
Oh, I think they're all over the place. And you identified the culprit. It's the D.C. press corps. You get in there, and it's a little circle, and you're monitored, and you are told by your colleagues what the line of the day is. And if you don't follow that line, suddenly you don't get invited to press conferences, you don't get invited to cocktail parties, and you're a very lonely person in a place called D.C.
Yeah. Well, and here's exactly what Ginsburg said about BLM kneelers. They have contempt for a government that has made it possible for their parents and grandparents to live a decent life. I mean, how catastrophic would that have been to her legacy had that truth come out?
It would have been one less documentary, maybe.
Right, or one less $1 million payout for Katie. Look, it's a closed circle. It is totally on the left, and ever since the election of Donald Trump, the D.C. press corps has decided that they can't just be observers, they have to be participants in this game. And the game is a zero-sum win or lose game, and they are in it to make their point of view heard and also to be accepted by everyone.
And I remember this is before Trump was inaugurated, and I don't know why what transpired should come as a surprise to anyone from impeachment 1 to impeachment 2, and including everything in between and since. David Remnick, New Yorker, one of the deans of the D.C. press corps, said at the outset the rules are suspended. The normal rules are suspended. He essentially said we need to be advocates against this precedent.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine for them to say that, and if anybody should take a similar point of view toward the Biden administration, then they're suddenly not patriots anymore. They are horrible people, and they have to be shut down. Look, this is the equivalent of what the Nazi Party did in Germany 80 years ago. They began by shutting down other points of view and intimidating anyone that disagreed with them. That is what woke is. That is what cancel culture is. It's a different name. It's the same tactics.
Tell us about your novel. Of course they knew. Of course they ... It strikes me as a bit Randian in a fictional version of something that's very real in the world.
Well, thank you for the comparison. I would never make it myself. I think that Ayn Rand was a powerful writer, and I would never put myself in that category. However, what I am trying to say in novel form is that China is not our friend. We are deluding ourselves if we think that we can show China the path to democracy by engaging with them, trading with them, buying all of their products, and bringing them into the world community. We can't. They don't like us. They hate us. They want to destroy us. And China is a force that is too big to ignore. And what I tried to do in the novel is to take imaginary characters and overlay them on top of real-life circumstances. They created the coronavirus. They knew what they were doing, and they allowed it to spread around the world. Sorry, they're not our friends.
Give us, sort of in general terms, the plot and some of the characters.
Well, I have a couple of characters that I invented. One is a very unhappy Chinese virologist. She is a quite capable woman, but she is not being taken care of the way she thought she should be. She works in the Wuhan Virological Lab. Her job was to get rid of dead animals that had been experimented on and injected with various viruses, and one of those happened to be the virus that we are now ordered to call coronavirus. It's actually the Wuhan virus. That's one character. The other one is an Italian seamstress, a middle-aged lady who really knows about Italian cloth and goods and fabrics. She's devoted her life to the Made in Italy label that we all have in our clothes, and she's just abhorred. She's terrified at the fact that China has bought a lot of the major Italian textile makers and has brought in tens of thousands, and this is not fiction, tens of thousands of Chinese workers to do that work in Italy. There's a real-life example of how that works. A lot of clothing that used to say made in Italy was labeled made in Ilaty, I-L-A-T-Y, typographical error. Nobody noticed for a long time because it was Chinese workers. They didn't know what it said. And then I've got a guy that I have to admit is a little bit like me. He comes from Pittsburgh, which I do, and he's just not all that thrilled with being told what to do by the government. He's not an anarchist. He's not a terrible person. He just wants to be able to do what he wants to do with his life. And there's a lot of people in Pittsburgh like that, and I suspect in Chicago as well. So he doesn't like having to wear a mask to protect himself from a virus that started in China. And surprisingly, the masks that he's being told to wear are all made in China. That strikes him as a little bit, odd. So is he like the Dagny Taggart character for your novel? I guess you could make that comparison, yes. Anyway, I like him a lot, and he's also going to be a character in the sequel to this book, which I'm writing now.
Ooh, what's the sequel going to be titled? Do you know yet?
I think it might be called Who Wins, who being a Chinese name, H-U, and we'll just see if China or the United States, or should I say democracy, is going to win this war. But there's only going to be one winner, and China is way ahead in the game right now.
Yeah, that homonym, WHO. Why choose? I mean, as a newsman, why choose to go the fiction route and write novels rather than do something that was nonfiction?
That's a great question. I could not meet the standards of reporting that I hold myself to and that I used to hold everybody else to at Fox News, because I couldn't get access to China. I couldn't get the answers that I needed. I couldn't find the people that I needed to talk to. China is just a closed trap, and you cannot get in, and they will first deny you access, and then they'll lie. And I just couldn't possibly do a nonfiction book that met my own standards for journalism. So I went to the novel form. I hope I've hewed close enough to the facts, and I think any reader that picks it up will see that it's a very recognizable plot.
Speaking of Fox News, do you believe Fox News is still still enough of a bulwark against the DC press corps, not just the other cable news stations, but the DC press corps writ large, combined with a lot of the more conservative outlets that are online and so forth? Or is there the need for more entrance into the market?
Well, that's a great question. I left Fox in 2018 after being with them for 22 years, so I think I did my part. There's a lot of great people there. I think that I remain friends with a lot of those people. I think they're doing their job. I think that there are other outlets that are also trying to, as you say, resist the liberal momentum of the DC press corps. You've got an administration right now that can rely on 90% of the news media to support them in whatever they do. You had Nancy Pelosi just a couple of days ago lecturing a reporter who asked her if she really thought that Biden's proposals are all going to become law. And she said, well, you could do a better job in doing that. Well, excuse me, Nancy, why? Why would the press need to support you? And why would the press need to support Joe Biden? But they don't get that. They know that they're part of the same team. They all wear the same uniform. And yes, there's room for more conservative outlets, but they're going to have a hard time being as good as Fox News has become.
Mm-hmm. He is John Moody, former EVP of Fox News. The book, the novel we were just discussing, Of Course They Knew, Of Course They... ... Pick it up. John, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with the book.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Are you suffering from chronic pain and don't know where to turn, or having difficulty recovering from an injury and need help? Your doctors may be encouraging surgery or drugs to mask the pain, but is that the best solution for you? It's time to investigate less invasive surgery and drug-free alternatives. Integrate